The team had been living in this house for 10 days. Nothing happened during this time. Everyone spent their days as they normally would. The girls occasionally headed to the second floor together for naps. Most of the time, the team stayed in the living room per Zheng's order, but people began to get impatient. Evening of the 10th night came. Zheng said to the others, I know. We all stink from not showering for 10 days. No wonder the girls covered their noses when they saw us. Kappa casually replied, not a big deal. It's only 10 days without a shower. I have gone through half a month without washing my face during the most important times of battles. 10 peaceful days are more valuable than anything else. You are not wrong. Zheng shook his head and said, it just feels sticky and uncomfortable. Okay. Enough with the useless talks. The bathroom in the third floor can fit the 9 of us. Let's take a bath after dinner. Any objections? Kappa didn't care much. Zero and the others nodded. Xian was quietly reading a book while holding a piece of chocolate. It seemed as though he didn't pay attention to what the rest of the team were talking about. Zheng sighed. Xian had never given him any advice nor stated his plan since entering the movie. However, he couldn't be sure if this was another one of Xian's plans. Perhaps Xian's plan was already in progress. What Zheng needed to do was go along with it until the movie reached its end. Sigh. Is there an end to these kind of days? Zheng shook his head. He stared out the window to the dark street. Everyone was indeed quite happy for a bath after 10 days. Honglu acted like a kid as he swam in the bathtub and played with water. The bathroom was nearly 4 bedrooms big. It was obviously chosen by the previous owner of the house. The bathroom included showers, a steam bath, and a massage tub. Stay strong. It's been 11 days already. 19 more days until we reach our goal. Zheng said while people were cheerful. He washed his hair and seemed rather content with the bath. Honglu swam near him. Have you found anything out of the ordinary during these days? Zheng sprayed his hair with water then asked, why did you ask? Did you notice something wrong? Honglu shook his head. No. That's why I have to ask you. I only know we have 13 members. Did we lose anyone during this time? How many people did we have? You are the only one who knows. Who else am I going to ask? Zheng also shook his head. Nope. These 10 days have been really peaceful. No one disappeared after Molly and Hung. It would be good if this peace continues. Although Hung, but we still have to live on. Just continue with this peace. Honglu gave him a bitter smile. How can it be so easy? I don't know why, but my special ability somehow still works in this dream. Zheng asked in confusion, your special ability? What kind of ability? Honglu pointed to his head. Do you still remember that I can see the air of death from people who are about to die? The reason I haven't mentioned it is because I am a logical thinker. My thinking process will contradict itself if I include such vague information. I excluded this ability as much as I could all this time. But the air of death is clouding most of our bodies. It's on you, on me, on everyone. I feel like we are going to die at any time. That could be really terrible. Zheng replied with a bitter smile. He didn't know how to respond other than just sigh. He walked to the bathtub and submerged himself underwater. What should I do? My deduction only has a 30% chance of being right. But it's the only one I can come up with. I can't think of another possibility. Yet, the price to testing it might be too high. Furthermore, if it turns out wrong, we will surely get wiped. It's up to you now, Zheng. Honglu swung his head. He pinched a string of hair in front of his forehead. His hair felt oily, so he went over to the showers to wash his hair. There were only adult shampoos near the shower. The children one he bought was nowhere to be found. Did I left it in the changing room? Honglu ranted. He walked out naked. While searching for the shampoo in the changing room, he heard a faint cry that belonged to a woman. Along with it was the crackling noise of something burning. Honglu's body trembled. He recalled he did indeed bring the shampoo into the bathroom. Yet, it wasn't inside and he mindlessly walked out. This wouldn't have been possible with how careful he usually was. The only possibility was his mind got clouded. Which meant Freddy had targeted him. So the next target is me. I am curious. Is it because the hole in my soul is big, or is it because I found the correct key? As long as I complete this key, I will break your magic. No. That will probably kill you. Honglu smiled coldly. He pushed the door to the bathroom open. Behind the door wasn't the room in his memory just like he expected. It was a set of stairs leading up. A wave of heat was coming from above. The hole in my soul. Honglu pinched his hair. I haven't found a hole in my soul. So am I still in the safe dream? I can imagine what tricks you are going to use on me. Disgusting. To be honest, I don't ever want to walk these stairs again. I was planning to take down these type of houses after I returned to the real world. Honglu waved a sign with his hands and chanted a spell. A hound appeared in front of him. He sat on the hound and pointed at the stairs. The hound ran up. The soul, or our consciousness, is relative. Honglu said with a cold smile. You can't simply watch the side like this is a movie. You can see us and we can see you. If I don't break apart from the scene that you set up, you will. Nothing is absolutely perfect in this world, including power. Zheng. This is the final thing I can help you. A hole appeared in my soul and it is the same to him. Remember what I told you, our lives are in your hands. Don't forget us. There are no more revives if we die again. Despite Honglu approached the situation without turning back, he was trembling within. Tears filled his eyes as though they would burst out any moment. He continued talking to the air and controlled the hound to run up. Fire soon consumed the floor in front of him and spread to the floor behind him. For real. If Zheng is a bit smarter, I wouldn't have to say the correct thing at the wrong time and wrong place. Zheng. If you fail, I won't let you off even if I become a ghost. Tears ran down Honglu's cheeks. He came down from the hound. He cleared a path using Ray of Frost and came to a burned door. Honglu slowly wept as he pushed the door open. He saw a skeleton that had been completely burned. The skeleton moaned in pain in a woman's voice as though it was a human being burned alive. Honglu cried out. A hand-wearing scissor-like glove reached out from the room and dragged Honglu inside. Pa! The burned door closed. Zheng was greatly enjoying the refreshing bath. He had never rested for a moment in the past 10 days. For one, he had to be aware of the surroundings at all times in case something out of the ordinary happened. And two, he continued training his chi, blood energy, and refining chi. He arranged the 8 flags in 8 directions in the living room. So, he was tired from the lack of sleep. This bath was an opportunity to relax his mind and body. Need to think through our next actions. If everyone is in a dream, how can we wake up? Xian is planning something by himself without telling me. Hope he pulls another miracle as he always did and bring the team out of this dangerous world. What was Honglu trying to say? The origin of the nightmare. What other way is there to wake up from a dream aside from physically waking the person? Zheng was never an intelligent type. He was at best on the same level as Kappa and Zero. Maybe a little higher in the 3rd stage but still far, far away from Xian and Honglu. The circumstances enclosing them was strange. Xian kept his silence. Honglu's words were as good as silence. Zheng had to force himself to think. Yet, he still wasn't able to think of the answer. On a last resort, he entered the 3rd stage and simulated Honglu's mode of thinking. The situation became clearer in his head. He could see fractions of what might be happening but there were still parts he couldn't figure out. Haven't figured out what Honglu was trying to tell me but following his perspective that we are currently in a dream, the power levels in this world is established around a standard. What is the standard? Another key question is with regards to time. Zheng pinched his hair then continued thinking. Time does not flow in accordance with the real world. 20 days might have passed in reality already or maybe it is only several minutes. If the world is split into 3, time in the safe dream and despair dream might not share the same rate. Otherwise, I wouldn't have lost the girl when she fell off the window since I immediately chased after her. Wait. That girl. What was her name? Cold sweat drenched Zheng. He jumped up from the bathtub then walked back and forth in the room. He was perturbed as though a fire was burning his body. How is this possible? How could I have forgotten the girl's name? I am also forgetting how she looked like. A sense of fear fell upon Zheng. The situation was unsettling to begin with and now he discovered blank spaces in his memory. This inconceivable development was scarier than any enemy he could see with his eyes. He still remembered what Honglu told him. The moment everyone in the team forgot about a person, that person would die. Because she no longer existed. Zheng took several deep breaths then turned to Zero who was washing his hair. Zero. Do you still remember the girl that vanished? What is her name? How does she look like? Zero hurriedly washed off the shampoo then opened his eyes, looking confused. What vanished girl? Who? Zheng calmed himself and said, the one that I kept saying had disappeared. Everyone said no one disappeared but I firmly insisted someone disappeared. I mentioned that girl. What is her name? Zero thought for a while before he shook his head. Nope. You never mentioned about anyone disappearing. So I don't know who you are talking about. We have 12 people in the team. 9 veterans and 3 newbies. None of us are gone. We have 12 people? Zheng immediately searched the room and yelled, we have 13 people. No, we have 15 people. How did it become 12? Xian, Kampa, Wangxia, where is Honglu? Zero gave Zheng a weird gaze and said, you are too tired. You haven't slept for so many days. Get a good rest after the shower. I will keep watch over the night. We don't have anyone named Honglu in our team. We don't? It's impossible. Zheng panicked and couldn't the words to express himself. It was clear that every person who vanished became forgotten by the rest of the members. He was the only one who could remember these people but his memory of them faded as time passed. The terror of helplessness was spreading toward his heart. Calm. Calm. It seems like I have completely forgotten about that girl. I can still remember Hung and Honglu. We had 15 people and now only 12. I have to write down Hung and Honglu on paper. Never forget their names and existence. If what Honglu said is true, they will die once the whole team forget about them. I can't let them die. Zheng entered the changing room, still in the 3rd stage. As he dried himself with a towel, he smelled a very faint odor of burned plastic. He sniffed it a little more then followed the trail of this odor. It was coming from bathroom he just came out of. Zheng pushed the door open. The same room came into view again. Xian, and the rest of the men were still there. The room looked perfectly normal. Was it an illusion? The odor appeared all out of a sudden. Was it from Freddy? In the original movie, Freddy was killed by a fire. The odor might signify that Freddy had came into the safe dream. Is that so? The next target is me. What a good plan. Just kill me and the rest of the team won't ever remember Honglu, the girl, and me. We will all be forgotten. Come kill me. I dare you, come in front of me. Zheng roared with rage. Fighting Freddy face to face was nothing compared to the helplessness as he witnessed his teammates disappearing one by one. The unknown and unseeable enemies were the deadliest. There was no escaping what was destined to come. Zheng stopped pondering over it. He got dressed and ran down to the first floor. The girls looked at him puzzled. Zheng grabbed a pen and a few pieces of paper to the table. He wrote down Hong and Honglu's names. Then he thought for a moment and wrote down the names of all 12 people remaining, including his own. The girls came up to him. Lan asked, "What is this? And who are Hong and Honglu?" "Members of Team China." Zheng replied. "They are all members of Team China. These 2 people have disappeared. No matter what happens, don't forget the remaining 12 people. Don't forget those who has disappeared. Please." The girls didn't know what happened. They had lost the memories of Hong and Honglu. Yet, Zheng spoke in such a serious manner, so they nodded in response. Everyone came down from the 3rd floor. Zheng made the team sign their names on the paper. After all was done, he said, "This is everyone in Team China. Remember them. Even if only one person makes it back alive, remember every name here." Seeing the sincere expression from Zheng, the team began to doubt themselves. Did these people really existed and they had forgotten their own team? We have 19 more days to go. We have 12 people. I don't know how many of us will make it back to God's dimension. Team China had 9 veterans and 3 newbies remaining, although Zheng was the only one to remember the 3 people who disappeared. He had to bear this weight all by himself. His mental state tensed more and more, nearing the edge of snapping. The team noticed the abnormality happening to Zheng. He had obviously fell into anxiety. Freddy wouldn't even need to come out at this rate before he snapped by himself. Furthermore, no one knew where the next attack was coming. The invisible looming danger also weighed on the rest of the team. Anxiety spread onto them. We can't let this go on. The anxiety will break open gaps in everyone's mind. Freddy won't even need to attack at this rate. 18 days had passed. Honglu, and the forgotten girl were still the only 3 to have disappeared. After dinner, Zheng said to the team, "Don't worry too much. We only have 12 days left. We will return as long as we make it through these 12 days. Clearly merely comforting words. Not even Zheng believed what he just said. Did this count as self-comforting or self-hypnosis? Since he did let out a sigh of relief. The rest of the team nodded along. Anyway, the time was nearing the 30-day limit and the team still had 12 members left. Just be more cautious and it couldn't end in a wipe at least. Yet, can we really leave this dream world? Time in a dream does not flow on the same rate as time in the real world. Maybe these 18 days are only 18 seconds. Honglu, what were you trying to tell me? What is that origin of the nightmare? What other method is there to make the nightmare go away? What is it? The team returned to the living room on the first floor after dinner. They either sat in groups and chatted or rested. Zheng and Xian were the only ones to stay by themselves quietly. Xian was reading a novel while sipping a cup of coffee. This was just his personality. Zheng's mind was spinning as he maintained the third stage. He looked over the team while he recalled everything that had happened since entering the movie. He could basically remember everything aside from the girl whose name was forgotten. The memories of Hong and Honglu never faded. It could be because they had fought together for so long. If we entered this world in the dream, then the barrier can't be explained. Being inside the barrier is equivalent to being in God's dimension. Which means we were awake during the preparation phase. The missions and the 4 newbies have to be real. A second point is we couldn't have fallen into a dream so abruptly. In order to throw the whole team into the same dream, it must have happened on the ride to the city. God altered the difficulty at the time. That was how we all fell asleep in the cars. I remember G said when he and his team experienced a nightmare on Elm Street, they tried to run away from the town but the driver turned into Freddy and wiped the former Team China. The question is, how did he obtain acknowledgement at that point to become the leader? Zheng shook his head. He pulled off a string of hair, put it on the table, and restarted his thoughts. My train of thoughts is tangled. Let me reconstruct the hypothesis. G did something to obtain acknowledgement from God. However, this something only obtained the acknowledgement. He didn't complete the movie nor killed Freddy. I assume he completed half the mission. Using this information, then I can explain what Honglu had said. First, there exists something that is the origin of the nightmare. This thing allowed the nightmare to occur. Second, in order for us to wake up, we must eliminate the origin. However, the nightmare will still continue at this point in another form due to momentum. How would we wake up? What other way than physically waking the person? Zheng gave his head a heavy shake. He was feeling a little dizzy and headache from maintaining the third stage for so long. He endured this headache and pulled off another string of hair. He put the hair on the table. These 2 points are directly connected to whether we can return to reality. Then there is the question of time. If time does not flow at the same rate as reality, waiting 30 days here would be a waste of effort. Why is Freddy making us wait? To drive us into anxiety and open a gap in our minds. The final question is if something that is unusual is the culprit, he's acting too out of the ordinary. Zheng couldn't suppress the need to pull another string of hair. But the clock suddenly struck. A medical-style grandfather clock in the living room rang. The time had reached 12 midnight. The members of Team China was going to sleep since it was late at this time. The two newbie girls got up and spoke to Lan in a low volume. Lan nodded and went toward the hallway with them. Zheng glanced at where they were going. It was the direction to the toilet. He then closed his eyes and pondered over his questions. He was too anxious to pay more attention to other people. With Lan there, the girls shouldn't encounter any problems. If that is the origin of the nightmare, would doing this be too extreme? Furthermore, something's off. Did something happen? This feeling of unease. Zheng's heart skipped a beat when he reached the critical point in his thoughts. It was as though a thing flashed across his feelings. An awful feeling rose from within. He rushed to the direction of the toilet instantly. He experienced the same feeling before, when the first girl disappeared. Something must be happening. The rest of the team saw Zheng jump up and began to run toward the toilet. Zheng yelled, "Prepare for battle. Qian, take Zero and Campa to the second floor and get ready to intercept. Everyone else follow me." He disappeared around the corner. The way leading to the toilet wasn't long. Zheng reached there almost instantly. He kicked open the door without a second thought. Lan was just pulling up her pants. She screamed as she crouched. Her face turned red. Zheng recognized the issue. The other men would be able to see her at this rate. He didn't see anything too clearly due to his rush though. He immediately shut the door and asked, "Lan, where are the other two? Where did they go?" Lan was panicking. She lowered her head and said, "Hurry up and leave." "Who are you talking about? I am the only one here." Zheng knew it had happened. The two girls disappeared. Yet, this sense of danger still lingered. He rushed to the window on the toilet and looked out. 3 figures were walking away from the house. The one in the middle was the figure of a man. Zheng shouted, "Put them on fast." He drew out Tiger Soul and slashed at the window. The wall and glass broke apart. Zheng activated instant destruction when suddenly a loud bang came from above. It was the Gauss sniper rifle. "Nice shot," Zheng shouted. He blinked to the figures with the speed of instant destruction. His chi, blood energy, and refined chi were all ready for an attack. He would shred Freddy into pieces the moment Freddy came into sight. However, the scene that came before his eyes after he approached shocked him. Freddy's corpse was nowhere to be found. Lying on the ground were the two girls' bodies. The sniper bullet pierced both their bodies. They weren't walking on a line. It shouldn't have been possible that the shot went through both of them. Zheng held up the two bodies, then turned his head around in an impulse. He saw Zero staring at his direction with terror and agony. Zero was standing by a second-floor window with the Gauss sniper rifle in hand. The previous shot indeed came from him, but how was he able to shoot through the girls at once? Why was his expression looked in such despair? Zheng opened his mouth, but before any sound came out, a hand wearing scissor-like gloves reached out from behind Zero and dragged him into the house. The scene behind the window turned black. There was nothing left. Ah! Zheng panicked and maddened. He activated destruction instantaneously and entered the 4th stage. He rushed over to the second floor, smashed the wall with a kick, then headed into the darkness. Zero was planning to sleep when the clock struck 12. He always remained alert, so when Zheng jumped up and rushed toward the toilet, he immediately got back up. Following Zheng's order, he went into position on the second floor. He didn't know what was happening. His experience led him to set up the rifle and waited. Time slowly passed. The feeling that he experienced felt distorted. It was as though he had been waiting here for so long, yet at the same time, it felt like an instant. This feeling was similar to the teleportation that happened when leaving and entering God's dimension, though weaker. Zero frowned. A sniper needed to be calm as a rock. He couldn't let his mind waver. The feeling dissipated and Zero finally saw something came into view. 2 girls followed a man's figure. He could make out the attire of the man despite not having a clear look of him. The black hat and striped shirt all pointed this man to a certain person. The Gauss sniper rifle was loaded with a spirit-type bullet and Zero aimed it at the man. His finger lightly pulled the trigger. Suddenly, image on the scope blurred for an instant. It was less than the blink of an eye when the image changed to that of a woman who pulled a girl to her front to block the shot. The shot pierced through both of them and sent the 2 bodies flying. Zero felt his soul began to freeze. The woman was his mother, the mother who had died. The girl was his brother. The 2 bodies lay on the follow after being shot, waiting for death to take them away. The Gauss sniper rifle was powerful enough that even a graze on the chest would crush the heart. There was no way for the 2 to survive from a direct hit. Zero looked down, seemingly defeated. He could see through the darkness outside with his eyes. The death of his mother and his broke apart his inner defense, even though he knew it couldn't be real. Zero was trying to pull himself together. He recognized he had entered the despair dream, and that Freddy had targeted him. Any gap in his heart could lead to his disappearance from the team. No one would remember him anymore. Humans might not fear death, but nearly everyone feared to be forgotten by those close to them. Tell mother, have you fallen in love with your little brother? Did you kill your little brother? Did you create a doll of him with the body of a girl? Have you fallen in love with your little brother? Did you kill your little brother? Did you create a doll of him with the body of a girl? A woman's voice resonated by his ears. The woman's body through the scope stood up. She picked up the girl's body and manipulated it to various postures like a puppet. The girl felt soulless. The woman's laughter sounded piercing to Zero's ears. His mind was falling apart. And then a hand reached out from behind and dragged him into an eternal darkness. Lan came out from the toilet at the time Zheng and Zero saw Freddy. Her face was red from the blush. She was embarrassed from what happened. It was normal when a man kicked open the door while the woman was doing her business. She wanted to dig a hole and hide herself. The worst part was, the man who saw her in this embarrassment was the one she secretly liked. Damn it! How could he just break in? Does he have no sense of respect for a woman? And it's to chase after those two girls too, eh? Who are the two girls? Lan clapped his face. She muttered while she walked toward the living room. Just 2 steps in and a familiar voice came from behind. Do you love him so much? Lan felt as though her soul had frozen. She couldn't find the courage to turn around. It was not due to fear but the person whom this voice came from. Is that you? Lan's voice was shaking. She couldn't move a finger as the warmth approached her from behind. She didn't even use psyche scan. This voice alone nearly crippled her. It's me and not me. Freddy's power allows me to appear for a short moment. The only thing I can do is hold you again. A figure embraced Lan from behind and the warmth enveloped this crying woman. It was a warmth that had nearly faded from her memories but deep down in her soul, she had never forgotten this feeling. Lan basked in this feeling quietly. Tears continued rolling down her cheeks. She knew he had died long ago. She knew he couldn't be here even if he were still alive. This was an illusion created by Freddy. But this feeling was so real. She wanted to relive this experience again, even if this was merely an illusion. The words that came from the figure was nothing gentle like the embrace. You betrayed me, didn't you? You fell in love with someone else, didn't you? You are not the woman waiting to marry me anymore, you betrayed me. Lan cried. She felt her heart cracking. It was as though something very important within her shattered. She clenched her teeth and said. Please no Freddy. Please. Kill me, don't toy with my heart. The figure's words remained ugly. You are not a virgin anymore, aren't you? You have been soiled. Ha ha ha. The figure spread out and enclosed Lan in her entirety. The two disappeared, like Lan had never been here. The rest of the team were running toward the toilet. They heard a loud bang similar to the sound of a wall breaking from an impact. They looked at each other then hurried their steps. Yin Kong jumped out the window to take the shortcut. The others followed her. Wang Xia was running at the front so he didn't see the others taking the shortcut. By the time he looked around, he had already arrived at the toilet. He placed his hand on the doorknob, pushed the door open, and rushed in. The door closed behind him. Behind the door was not the toilet. It was an old and slightly weathered house. Wang Xia stared around the house with a bit of uncertainty. Then he spread his arms and activated this demon energy. Freddy. So you've come for me. Wang Xia shouted. Come. I will not fear you. I don't know how you replicated my old home, but did you think a simple house could break apart my will? Did you think my heart will waver? Come. Come and face me if you dare. Wang Xia channeled his demon energy onto the plasma grenades by his waist. He would attack at the instant Freddy appeared close. No one, not even Zheng, could escape from this attack without damage at such close distance. An old man's voice came through the door. Is it my nephew, Wang Xia? Have you returned? Wang Xia became silent. He recognized this voice very well. The man was a distant relative in the village who looked after his family since he was a child. Before he replied, an old man carrying a walking stick walked into the house. Tears began to roll down the old man's face as he hit Wang Xia with the walking stick. Wang Xia hesitated even though knew he couldn't let down his guard once Freddy caught him. The gap in his heart was the thinnest compared to the rest of the team. He entered the world through hypnosis so he was confident on taking Freddy. However, when an elder he knew appeared, he didn't know how to react. The beating from the walking stick wasn't anything painful fortunately so he just let it go on. The old man spoke as he wept. You unfilial child. Your mother raised you and watched you go off with silver hair. Yet, no one was there when she died. How could she give birth to such an unfilial child? I am going to beat you on behalf of your mother. Wang Xia grabbed onto the walking stick and shouted. Mother, wasn't she healthy when I left? The army said they would look after her. How in such a short period of time? How did she pass away? That's impossible. Right. You're Freddy. This is all just a dream. Wang Xia was going to throw the grenade at the weeping old man. Yet, he couldn't do it despite knowing this was merely a dream. He was wrong. His mother was the weakness that he had in his heart. That woman with silver hair. The old man pointed the stick at the ancestor altars behind Wang Xia. That was when he noticed his mother's name. He was the only person left in this family. Redness overtook Wang Xia's eyes. He dropped to his knees and knocked his head against the floor repeatedly. Blood stained the floor. Wang Xia finally broke down and cried. He couldn't contain the tears of a man. Something approached him from behind. Not the old man's walking stick but a scissor-like glove. It grasped Wang Xia by the neck. Zheng leaped up abruptly and looked around. The scene was peaceful. He didn't notice anything abnormal. Several members were standing next to him, looking worried. You all right? You fell asleep last night. Fortunately, Xian found out and took over the night watch. We would have been in danger otherwise. Cheng Xiao asked him. Zheng was stunned for a moment before he yelled. Shit. I fell into a dream again? How? Why did I fall asleep as soon as I went near Freddy? Fuck it. How are we supposed to kill him? The rest of the team looked confused. Kappa patted Zheng on the shoulder and said, Don't worry. It was safe last night. The 7 of us have been in the house the whole night. 7. There was no time to feel angry. Zheng quickly searched around. He had confirmed the death of the 2 newbies. But Zero, Lan, and Wang Xia were also missing. They disappeared as though they never existed. The team had forgotten about them. Zheng pushed Kappa to the side and ran over to the table. He picked up the piece of paper that recorded their names. All he could feel was ice cold. There were only 7 names. He wrote down 14 names but there were only 7 names. 7 disappeared. Even the words that he wrote down disappeared. The rest of the team heard Zheng mumbling, Zero, Lan, Wang Xia, Hong Lu. We can forget about the newbies but the 5 of them fought alongside us. How can I ever forget them? How can I? Freddy, I am going to kill you. A wave of killing intent surged from Zheng. He almost couldn't contain himself from picking up Tiger's soul and killing stuff. He could take on anything in a direct fight. All these movies he had been to didn't take him down. However, the helplessness, the disappearances one by one, and the possibility of forgetting his comrades struck him. How could he forget those who had fought with him, who had traveled to hell and made it back together? There's definitely a solution to this movie. There must be. Zheng clenched his teeth and roared. God wouldn't give a movie without a solution. There has to be a solution to this movie. Xian, help me. Team China dropped to only 7 members all of a sudden. The rest of the members vanished, including the memories of them. Zheng was the only person to still remember their names. Despair clouded Zheng. He never once felt so close to the border of despair. The situation had no relation to his combat strength at all. The despair came from his inability to see anything, to touch anything. All he could do was witness his team disappearing one by one while he didn't even come to touch Freddy. He was defeated by helplessness. Xian was Zheng's biggest support. He didn't know why Xian had been quiet throughout the movie, which differed from his person in the previous movies. In this case, Xian must be preparing for something. He would not do anything without a value, however, that relied on a premise. The other 5 members turned to Xian after Zheng spoke. They had equal amount of faith in him. Lu Yu though seemed curious at what someone who rarely spoke could do to bring the team back. So he asked Zheng Xiao. Xian was as calm as always, as though nothing mattered to him. He shook his head and said, There is no solution to this movie, at least for the moment. There's nothing I can help you. Lies. Zheng lifted him by the collar and shouted. You are lying. This movie could be too difficult for us, but it's not the same to you. No. You shouldn't even feel the difficulty. How could you have admitted defeat? Xian patted his collar, picked up a book and began to read. He replied, We can only wait quietly. Wait. Wait. Just keep waiting quietly. Zheng's hand moved but he suppressed what he was going to do. He sat down on the floor and pinched the hair in front of his forehead. The other 5 members didn't know what happened between the 2 of them. After a while of thinking and coming up with no idea, they all sat down. The room fell into silence. No, I still can't be certain. The possibility is higher than 60%, but if I am wrong, his life, his personality and actions are also similar to how he has always been. Am I just too paranoid? The second point is, judging by all the information, Freddy has only appeared in front of me. I am the only person who have seen him. Perhaps some other members saw him but they all disappeared. I am the only one who have seen him and am still here. He had to put me to sleep in order to avoid meeting me directly. But why? Zheng had entered the 3rd stage. His simulation had reached a fairly high degree compared to before. He couldn't perfectly simulate Honglu's thinking process, but it was enough for him to solve a lot of questions. Honglu was way above them after all. If Freddy's main attacks aren't physical and rely on breaking through a person's mental defense, then dragging him into the despair dream, does that mean everything that has happened so far is for the purpose of breaking my defense? Zheng frowned. This was the first time he came up with this possibility. He might reach something by following this train of thoughts. If that is the case, could it be possible this is all my dream? Everyone aside from me is fake. Then it can explain their disappearances and vanishing memories. The fake members are the origin of my nightmare. All I have to do to stop the origin is to eliminate them and then wake up. But this is too risky. What if they aren't fake? My mental defense will collapse at the instant I attack them. I will hesitate and feel unease from attacking even if they are fake. These feelings will open up a gap in my heart. Furthermore, my mental state has been unstable. Pressing myself to kill my team will break my defense either way. Damn it. I can't get rid of the origin even knowing what it is. Then there is the question of how to wake up after getting rid of the origin. Zheng pulled a few hair from irritation. His mind was in a mess. The situation was more muddled than his mind. He was pushed up against a wall. Just then, Lu Yu carefully came up to him and said, Hey, Zheng. Are we really in a dream? Zheng looked at him with surprise and nodded. Yes. We are indeed in a dream. I can't be 100% sure, but judging from what has been happening, it should be the case. Lu Yu followed, If this is a dream, then we should be able to imagine our strength. A disabled boy could stand up in his dream in the 3rd movie. He could even become a wizard. Why can't our imaginations come true in this dream? Maybe we are still in the real world. No. I get it. Zheng was thrilled. He patted Lu Yu on the shoulder then twirled his hair. It's our belief. Or perhaps the habit of our consciousness. This dream world is too real. So real that it's like the Matrix. We can't break through the confinement of our imagination despite being in a dream. That's due to the habit of our consciousness. If my analysis is correct, my mind is the foundation of this dream. Then there's one thing unique in this world. Zheng scanned over the people in the room then moved his eyes away. Which means the 3 newbies did die in front of me. The rest of the members disappeared. The newbies are complete strangers to me. I know nothing of their past, of the gaps in their hearts. That's the reason Freddy selected me. I have the biggest gaps in my mental defense. I lust for everyone to return to the real world, which becomes a weak spot at this point. And I know of the past of the members. I get what Honglu was trying to say. We have to wait for the key to solve the puzzle. And then once it's confirmed, the last step is to eliminate the nightmare. Zheng took a deep breath then stood up. He walked toward the stairs and said, there's no point staying in the living room since people are still disappearing. I will go sleep in a bedroom. Call me if something happens. You can also find a room to sleep or continue to stay in the living room. Xian headed up the stairs after Zheng was gone. 5 people were left in the living room. Lu Yu asked, what happened to Zheng? Is it something that I said? Everyone looked to the stairs clueless. No one answered his question. A few seconds later, Yinkong also got up and walked upstairs. The 4 people left got goosebumps as they continued to stare. Cheng Xiao forced an awkward laugher and said, we should continue to stay here. Those 3 are psychopaths. I don't want to be in the 2nd floor with them. How about we stay here? The rest nodded, especially Lu Yu. He was scared of being alone the most. He was the weakest person here since he was a newbie. Zheng pulled a string of hair as he walked up the stairs. If my deduction holds, I will save you all. That is our only chance of surviving.